Yoshi. Man, this is not okay. Look at the time. I know you're an American. I'm an American too. At the very earliest. You're still posting this at like 10 at night, almost. Dude, you need to go to sleep. You need a break. I need a break. Yoshi, stop. Anyways, hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken. I'm gonna try not to talk too loud because it's 1 in the freaking morning. I was about to go to bed. I had a video prepared about Wraith, and then Wraith got changed again in this update, and now it's immediately outdated, so I have to record this instead. Oh boy. Anyways, yeah, we've got a lot of balance changes here. This is actually much bigger than the previous balance hotfix, so let's just jump right in. So first of all, we have some general changes to the map. Base Guardian HP has been reduced substantially from 5,500 down to 4,000, and the zipline can be captured a bit farther into the base. What does this mean? Well, if you're an enemy trying to siege into the base, these ziplines are going to go a little bit farther, and as such, the friendly ziplines from your base extending outwards have been kind of crept in a little bit. They're not going to go out as far. And then finally, Super Troopers, when a lane shrine is down, have 15% less bounty, so a little bit fewer souls when you kill them. They also did some general hero changes. All hero base health has been increased by 40, which is a nifty little change that's going to make the time to kill, especially in the early game, a little bit longer. And hero health growth has increased by +4 and 8%. So everyone's just a little bit tankier now, which should help because I know a lot of people have been having problems with the burst in this update and the amount of damage everyone's able to do. This is a nice way to generally make everyone harder to kill. And finally, the vitality investment bonuses have been increased by 12%, so even more health from this. From your 4.8k, you're now looking at 588 health. That is a lot. 2 items have been changed. First of all, another buff to Golden Goose Egg. You now get a buff every 150 souls instead of 200, which is actually a substantial improvement. You're going to get way more buffs from this now. And also Vortex Web will now only unit target when used with alt cast. Now you still have to aim directly at them. If you press the button normally like this, then it still does that arcing projectile. But if you use your alt cast, which in my case is holding it down, then it goes straight directly towards them, like slowing hex would. I imagine this is because some people might have been running into issues where they accidentally mouse over a character and it messes up their vortex web placement, so this is a fine change. Now let's move on to the hero balance. First of all, Apollo is getting the lunge speed back, but on the tier 3 instead of the tier 2, so you have to invest a little bit more in order to lunge faster, which I think is fair enough, because the faster lunge does make him feel better to play. Calico is getting some nerfs to absolutely no one's surprise. Her move speed at base has been reduced by 0.4 meters per second, and they also fixed the tier 2 gloom bombs, giving an extra flat 15 damage, which they weren't supposed to do, and apparently this change was released a couple of days ago. Leaping Slash also got nerfed to no one's surprise. The scaling has been reduced from 1.5 to 1.2 on the melee damage, and also the souls have been reduced from 300 to 225. Personally, I still think the tier 2 should just be reworked, but regardless, that is a very welcome nerf. Celeste is getting some adjustments. First of all, her movement is seeing a bit of rebalancing back towards the way it was before the patch, so the gravity has gone from 28% down to 25%. It was previously 20% in the last patch, so still higher than last patch, but lower than it was at the start of the patch. And then air control has been increased from 38% to 44%, and it was 50% previous patch, so you get some air control back, but again, it's not as strong as it was last patch, so she should still, I think, be feeling fine on the movement front, but well, that's where the good news ends, because, well, Light Eaters on hit damage has been reduced from 25 to 20. That's kind of a small nerf, but the nerfs only get bigger. Dazzling Trick's Barrier Spirit scaling has been reduced from 1.1 down to 0.8. That definitely sucks, but Shining Wonder is getting some absolutely gigantic nerfs. First of all, it will no longer refund half the cooldown if you miss it. It's now the full 140-second cooldown, which honestly, thank goodness, this ult really didn't deserve that, in my opinion. Like, why this ult and not any other ult in the game doesn't make sense. And then also, the linger time has been reduced by 1/4 of a second. It is now just 3 seconds long. Her ultimate is finally, probably now, not going to be as much of a nuisance. At least, that is the hope. You know, as I'm recording this, I'm wondering how this video is going to sound because I'm trying to speak in a much more hushed manner. It's so awkward recording at this time of night. I hope it doesn't sound too weird. Anyways, let's move on to Doorman. So, his call bell now has impact damage again, and the explosion damage is a separate component. So, looks like they went back on that change. Very curious. And the tier 2 has been adjusted in its damage component to compensate, and then the tier 3 will increase the slow by 15% from 30 up to 45. So if you get some range now, then you should be able to, hit the impact, and then because his bullets pierce now, you can shoot through the target and hit the explosion, and that works super nicely. So I think this makes sense for the Doorman now that he has these piercing projectiles. However, it is definitely a nerf, because if you were to stack bells on the ground while someone was in their ult, or while they were getting Lash ulted, or any other different thing, then you would get the full damage, and now, because you're missing the impact damage, you won't be doing as much damage with these explosions. Drifter got a bug fix where Quicksilver Reload was doing damage on both damage components of Rend, the spirit and melee damage. So now you're only getting 1 damage proc from Quicksilver Reload. That was a silly bug. We've got some extremely juicy changes coming up, but before we get to them, real quick, if you guys have been enjoying the video and you found it to be helpful, of course make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Anyways, let's talk about Ivy. So they gave her a little bit of bullet damage growth back from 0.06 to 0.08, but this is still much lower than it was previously. Previously, I believe it was 0.12. So that hurts, but I mean, yeah, they realized they nerfed it too hard. That was a crazy nerf. Kudzu Connection will also only give you half the bonus now if you aren't connected to an ally. So just by the base stats here, I would only get 5% fire rate and 7.5% bullet lifesteal. That's pretty tough. And then the airdrop has been nerfed too. The spirit scaling has been reduced from 1 to 0.7 on both the damage and the barrier component when you upgrade to the tier 1 here. And then the tier 2 slow has been reduced by 10% from 50 down to 40. I really haven't seen much Ivy, so I gotta say, these nerfs are coming a little bit out of left field for me, but let me know what you think about Ivy in the comments section. Personally, I'm just glad she got a bit of gun damage back. Valve heard the cries from everyone in my Twitch chat, and they have fixed Death Slam. Death Slam's throw range has been increased by 2 meters from 12 up to 14, and the throw range once again scales with spirit power. Thank goodness for that. The tier 3 cast range has been dropped down from 10 meters to 6 meters, but that's still a substantial bonus, and if you have greater expansion, you're still going to be able to snipe people from 35 meters away, which is scary. And the stun on the tier 3 has also been increased from 1 to 1.2 seconds, so his ultimate is back to feeling pretty darn good. And if I go ahead and just get some spirit power from standard Lash things here, you can see that we have a 57 meter throw distance. And if I go ahead and unupgrade this, we still have a 40 meter throw distance, up from 14 meters with greater expansion here. And without greater expansion, it's still 30 meters. It's just so much better than it was with that nerf. So yeah, I for one am very grateful that Lash Slam is back. McGinnis is getting some ult nerfs. Never thought I'd see the day, but I mean, even before the patch, I was seeing a lot of ult McGinnis in Eternus, and then they buffed it substantially, and this patch is focused just solely on nerfing this and nothing else about the character. So the radius has been reduced by half a meter, the tier 1 slow duration has been reduced by half a second, it's now just 1 second, the tier 3 spirit scaling has been reduced from plus 0.25 to plus 0.2, and the damage has been reduced from 25 down to 22. So, yeah, just a worse rocket barrage across the board. That is honestly a little funny, considering how it was considered to be one of the worst ults in the game for the longest time. Mirage is quite possibly the only reworked character that's getting buffs here, so the Fire Scarab cooldown has been reduced by a whopping 10 seconds from 45 down to 35. That is pretty huge. And also, the Traveler Tier 1 increases your fire rate by 20%, so they kind of added that back too. So that's nice, honestly. Now, Mo and Krill has been a menace this patch alongside many of the other heroes because he got a huge healing and damage bonus, and so they are clamping down on that pretty hard. First of all, Scorn's heal versus non-heroes has been reduced from 0.5 to 0.35x, which rounds up in game to 0.4, but it's still 0.35 under the hood. So that means that you're really going to have to target players, and if you also have some minions in the radius, it's not going to help as much. And then also, the cooldown has been increased by half a second, which is a pretty big deal on a cooldown as short as Scorn's. Combo is also getting a bunch of changes. First of all, the DPS has been reduced from 60 down to 45. Yeah, what were they thinking buffing it that much? That's a little crazy. And the cooldown has been reduced from 150 to 140 seconds to compensate. The Tier 2 has been completely changed. Previously, it gave 60 DPS and 50% bullet resist. Now, it reduces the cooldown by 35 and gives you 50% bullet resist. So the bullet resist is still there, but the cooldown reduction has been applied here, and you'll notice that this is much lower cooldown reduction than the Tier 3 previously gave. The Tier 3 gave 60 seconds of cooldown reduction, and this 35 seconds now means that it has a 105 second cooldown. Previously, I think it would have been 90, so that is definitely a big nerf. The Tier 3 is going to give you the duration still, but this is where the damage has been moved, and it is still just plus 60 DPS, so overall that is a pretty big nerf to combo, and yeah, I mean, I am not going to shed any tears over this. Now, I never thought I'd see the day where they'd have to do this to Paradox of all characters, but her objective damage is getting nerfed. Pulse Grenade, specifically, does half damage to objectives. Wow, that's actually kind of wild. It is, of course, because it has a crazy damage amp applied, and you will still be able to do good gun damage to the objective, but the actual spirit damage is going to be cut in half. I played a Bomb Paradox build recently, and I noticed this thing was absolutely eating up the walkers that I threw it at. I was playing with an Echo Shard, and so I just had two of them utterly eviscerating it. So, yeah, I mean, feels like a really weird character to have this penalty, but with the changes that they gave to Bomb, it actually makes sense. Now, Pocket's Affliction is getting some changes to try and balance it around the Tier 3 Affliction, which makes them prevent all healing for the duration of the Affliction, which is an insanely powerful effect. And so what they've done is they've lowered the duration of Affliction overall, while slightly buffing its DPS, but it will ultimately result in slightly lower damage than it had before. So the duration at base has been reduced from 12 to 11 seconds, and the Tier 2 duration has been reduced from 4 down to 3 seconds. So in total, it's going from 16 seconds at max to 14 seconds at max. But the damage per second of both the regular base damage and the Tier 3 have gone up, from 32 up to 34 damage and 0.2 to 0.22 spirit scaling at base, and also 16 up to 18 damage and 0.1 to 0.11 spirit scaling on the Tier 3. I think this is a very fair and reasonable change because 100% anti-heal is not to be trifled with. They buffed 7 again. I mean, as a 7 main with a very high win rate, I am very surprised by this, but okay, I'll take it, Yoshi. So, the Lightning Ball charge time has been reduced from 8 seconds to 7 seconds, so you'll be able to use them more frequently. And with Rapid Recharge, this goes down to just 4.9 seconds between charges. And also, the Tier 3 Storm Cloud increases speed from 3 to 4 meters per second. So, enjoy being able to zoom across the battlefield. This is like crazy fast for Storm to be moving. Oh my goodness. Shiv is getting some slight buffs, but even these don't come without a compensatory nerf. So, first of all, his alt-fire knockback, which is the knockback he does to himself, has been increased by 10%. which is actually pretty cool. I know Shiv mains love their movement tech, and this is going to help with that. However, the serrated knives cooldown has been increased from 16 seconds to 18 seconds. These really are just a shadow of their former selves, aren't they? And then, Killing Blow, thankfully, has been buffed a little bit. They were a little too cautious with the rework to this, so they increased the range substantially, from 13 meters up to 18 meters. And it will also be a little bit faster, so you'll reach the destination quicker. And yeah, this is pretty substantial now. This feels about the max range that Shiv's ult could travel previously, and since it's a skill shot and not a auto-aim mechanic now, I think that is eminently reasonable. Once again, they realized that they were too hard on Silver, so they buffed Lycan Curse ever so slightly. They brought the cooldown down from 50 to 40 seconds, which is still higher than it was previously, but definitely much less of a nerf than before. And also the tier 1 gives you 3% extra resistances from 15 up to 18%. Victor got some really nice changes in the previous update, and, well, they decided that was too much for him, so let's cut back on his power a little bit. The Pain Battery Tier 3 has been nerfed from 18% to 15% missing health, slightly less healing on that, and Jumpstart's Spirit Scaling has been reduced on the Tier 3 from 0.8 to 0.6. Still pretty good Spirit Scaling, but obviously a nerf. Aura of Suffering has one cool new feature. You can now activate it on the zip line if you want to ramp it up before you get into a fight. But to compensate, they nerfed the radius by half a meter from 10 down to 9.5, which is still way bigger than it was before, and they nerfed the base and tier 2 max DPS scaling by 10%, so even less damage on this. But the funny thing about nerfing the damage on Aura of Suffering is it also makes it more consistent for Victor at the end of the day, because it's less self-damage, so it's not as bad as other DPS nerfs. And then Shocking Reanimation is getting a power adjustment. The base Shocking Reanimation now has a 20-second longer cooldown. It's up to 210 seconds now, but the tier 3 gives you those 20 seconds back because it has been buffed from 50 to 70 seconds cooldown reduction. Vindicta got a small bug fix, so if a proc bonus was the Killing Blow after you tagged someone with her ult, then it wouldn't give her the bonus weapon damage. That has been resolved. Yep, they're nerfing Puddle Punch again. They realized that giving it that many buffs while also fixing all item bugs on this was way too strong. So, they nerfed the damage scaling again from 1 to 0.8. Previously, it was either 1.1 or 1.2, and then they nerfed it down to 1, and now it is less than 1-to-1 melee scaling. Ouch. And furthermore, the tier 3 was accidentally giving an extra 60 melee damage, which it wasn't supposed to do, so that has been fixed, and, well, they resolved that a couple of days ago, apparently. Honestly, though, in my humble opinion, instead of nerfing the damage of the Puddle Punch, they could have nerfed the charge time instead, because, I mean, you can just rapid fire these things. Of course, maybe their intention is that you can use them with the consistency and rapidity of a regular heavy melee, which, I mean, has a similar cast time. And if so, I guess that's fair enough, but yeah, I just think it's kind of crazy how many of these you're able to get off in quick succession. My hope is just that if they keep nerfing Puddle Punch over and over and over again until eventually it's bad, that they eventually give some more compensatory buffs to the Spirit playstyle, because I want Ball Meta to be a thing again. Last Stand got a pretty interesting change. So the base resistances while channeling have been lowered by 10%, but the tier 3 now gives you plus 30% resists, bringing your total resistance during this thing to 80% while unstoppable. They really want this to be a thing that you can cast while you're on the edge of death and the enemies won't be able to kill you. You can use it to face tank literally anything with the tier 3 now. And finally, Wraith. Oh man, I just made a video that I was prepared to release. I had it all done and dusted, and then Yoshi comes and completely changes the character in a fundamental way that makes the video completely and utterly outdated. So, Card Trick getting a whole suite of changes here, pun intended. So, first of all, the cooldown has been increased from 0.5 to 0.6 seconds, And the Joker no longer bounces to other targets. It just gets the benefit of all 4 suits without that extra damage component. Now, the patch notes say that card trick gaining charges no longer automatically builds them up when you get charges from card trick's AP or from an item like rapid recharge, but that seems to not be working currently, as if I upgrade right now, I still get those 2 charges. If I get rapid recharge, I get 2 more charges, and the cards are automatically built up. But I imagine this will be fixed by the time the video goes out. The card trick tier 3 spade bonus has also been reduced from 50 to 40, so it just turns into a flat 100% bonus damage now. And the tier 3 heart healing scale has been reduced from 0.75 to 0.5 bonus healing, which is quite substantial, but this thing gets a ton of healing, so I think that's fine. And then the last thing they did to the card trick is they actually gave it a new functionality where you can alt cast the card trick to fire the cards in reverse order. So you see that right now the Joker is selected and I have a diamond on the far left. If I alt cast, it throws the diamond out, which is really cool. It lets you have more control over which card you actually throw out. And then telekinesis got a couple of nerfs, so both the cast and the throw range have been reduced from 14 to 13 meters, and the cast delay has been increased by half a second, giving the enemies more time to react to this thing. So a little bit less crowd control in terms of the actual telekinesis portion, and more of an opportunity to counterspell it. But anyways, those are all the changes in this update, so let me know what you think about them in the comments section down below. Sorry for speaking a bit differently in this video. Blame it on Yoshi for publishing the patch this late and ruining my sleep schedule. Oh god. Anyways, if you appreciate my effort in getting these patch videos out to you, then make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos from me. And with that being said, I will see you all next time. Peace out.